Hey guys, thanks for joining us. My name is Mark Hulsey. I'm the managing broker of RE/MAX Results Commercial Group. We're going to be doing a series of videos over the next few months, and we're going to bring you little bits of information about commercial brokerage and investment real estate, and I hope you're going to find this interesting. So let's get started on some of the differences between residential versus commercial real estate. So first, the biggest point that I want to make is that there's a huge difference. And sometimes people think, it's not that big of a deal. If I sell a house, I can sell an office building, I can sell a retail building. And actually, there's a very significant difference between residential real estate and commercial real estate. We have a whole different set of practices that we work around. So a couple of those, let me just get started and kind of rip through these, you guys. So today I'm going to just mention things about valuation methodology, marketing, disposition strategy, negotiation, sales contracts, working with attorneys, due diligence, lending, title, and closing. So the first one to touch on is just valuation. So when we work on real estate valuation for commercial investment real estate, there's typically two ways in which we do it. We do it both through income analysis as well as market analysis. So market analysis is pretty straightforward. What is something selling for, or in our terminology, what's something trading for? So that office building over there may be trading for $115 per square foot. And then of course we do the income analysis side where we break down all of our income, all of our expenses, we get to our net operating income, we work off of cap rates and some of those key variables. So valuation takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of data resources, and it's just a lot of time. Many times we also have to work on something that's called a pro forma, where we're saying this property may be performing at X today, but once the person purchases the property, maybe it's an investor stabilizing a retail strip center, well, where would that asset be performing in 12 months or 24 months? And we have to go through the pro forma analysis. Next is commercial property marketing and advertising. Unlike residential real estate, where there's a couple of kind of databases, we'll call like the MLS, the multiple listing service, or maybe you work with Zillow or one of the other main residential platforms. In commercial real estate, we have many, many more than that. So when we're preparing a property for marketing and advertising, there's a lot of work that goes into it. We don't put together a brochure, we put together a brochure like on steroids, and that's called an offering memorandum, or you'll hear it referred to as an OM. And we have to put the offering memorandum together, and then we have to place it on many different commercial databases, many of which are very expensive for us to be a part of, and that's how we get exposure. You're going to come to hear me talk a lot about exposure, because in our world, that's what it's all about. We are listing brokers, that's what we focus on at RE/MAX Results Commercial Group. Our focus is taking product to market, and so you'll hear me talk a lot about that in some of the future videos as well. So exposure is everything, because without exposure, of course, we can't get true market value and understand what somebody thinks the asset is worth. So we package it up, we get it out to the marketplace on all the various different databases, and we also do a lot of pushing the property out to people. So we don't just place it out there, cross our fingers, and hope that everything works out. We need to do multiple emails out to specific groups. So we may have a redevelopment site, and we're sending that out to all the developers, commercial developers, residential developers, investor groups, and all of that. The next one I'm going to talk about are a little bit about transaction negotiations and deal structures. So when we put together a transaction in commercial real estate, every single one of them is very different, and it gets a little bit hardcore. So it's not just a matter of slamming together a purchase agreement in 10 minutes and away we go. There's a lot of thought that goes into every single type of deal, because in the world of commercial real estate, we might be dealing with a net lease investment, multifamily property, land, and each of those is very, very different. The other part, naturally, as you would well imagine, that in commercial real estate, you're swimming with the sharks. So these are the best of the best. These are very smart people. We're working with very seasoned and sophisticated investors, owners, attorneys, and so it's really critical that we take our time to really think through deal structure, due diligence, and you need to understand the due diligence part in order to put together a proper purchase agreement. So there's a lot of effort. In fact, the negotiation, the putting together the purchase agreement, the deal structure, that's some of the most enjoyment that we actually get out of working in commercial real estate. Due diligence. So due diligence, of course, everybody talks about due diligence in so many different ways today, but just a moment on due diligence with commercial real estate. As far as I'm concerned, this is what commercial real estate is really kind of all about, and that is truly due diligence. And what does that mean in our world? So When you purchase a house, you might be really thinking about going through the home inspection and then working through the process with the lender and the appraisal and some of those pieces. But in commercial real estate, it can be a very long checklist of due diligence items that we need to work through. And it's going to be everything from zoning and permits to dealing with a survey, and there too it might be an ALTA survey versus a certified survey. Environmental, that's the big dog in our business, is environmental. That's usually referred to as, you've probably heard, a phase 1 or a phase 2. Critical are the environmental studies when it comes to commercial real estate. The physical assessment in our world, that's the same as an inspection. That's getting through, maybe it might be specialists like roof people, asphalt people, structural engineers. When we do land has its own set of due diligence items in and of itself, and that can be everything from wetland delineations to soil testing, all of those things. And similarly, when we get into tenancy, whether it be a multifamily, retail, or office building, of course, tenancy brings its another whole layer of due diligence, from lease review, tenant review, credit worthiness, financial strength, estoppel certificates prior to closing. So due diligence gets rather complicated in commercial real estate. Touching real quickly just on lending and underwriting. So lending, of course, in commercial real estate really depends upon the type of property that we're working with. Is it a multifamily property? Is it an investment property? And of course, then who's the lender and what are they going to require in this? We also do a lot of cash transactions, and we do a lot of contract for deed or seller financing deals. And with each of those, obviously the purchase agreement's very different, the way we're setting it up is very different, and lending and underwriting is very different as well. We work off of conventional financing, SBA financing, and a variety of other kinds of programs. We love to work within kind of creative seller financing as well, as I mentioned, whether it be contract for deeds, land contracts. It's very enjoyable because then we can really structure a purchase agreement for a buyer and seller, really customize it to work for both parties. Okay, just a moment on commercial brokers and kind of the competition. These are the folks that I get to work with, we get to work with every single day. Commercial brokers are not the same as residential agents, good or bad. It's just they're kind of a different breed, and because we're not working with the home sellers and sitting at the kitchen table and trying to figure out here's this emotional asset that we need to go sell or purchase for somebody. We're really kind of more all about the business. A lot of our clients are lenders. We dispose of their assets. They're investors. They're sophisticated. It can be rather black and white, cut and dry, and as I kind of made mention of before when I used the terminology swimming with the sharks, and that is what I'm talking about. Interestingly though, just like in any other industry, within commercial real estate it's the same thing, where you kind of have that top group who do a tremendous amount of the work, and then you've got a lot of other folks out there. So it's not as though everybody within our business, that everybody is perfect and they're all wonderful. We all kind of know who the producers are, but just know that if you're out there working with commercial real estate brokers, that it's a little bit different type of scenario, certainly, than it is in residential. So something else that I wanted to mention to you is, if you're a residential agent and you're going to work on a commercial deal and you're reaching out to a commercial broker, it's not uncommon for me to hear something like, "But Mark, I've called them 3 times and they won't call me back. What's going on with that?" And interestingly, many commercial brokers are not terribly enthusiastic to work with residential agents. And so know that a commercial broker is not always trying to be, off-putting by not being terribly responsive to a residential agent. But, we're in the Minneapolis-St. Paul market here, and while we're a good-sized market, like most markets, everybody kind of starts to know everybody, and so bear that in mind if you're working on a commercial deal and you're a residential agent. Commercial real estate is very specialized, so it's not uncommon, especially in the big commercial brokerage houses, for somebody to be an office guy or a gal that only focuses on retail, or maybe just tenant rep work. And so commercial becomes very specialized because commercial is such a huge world. And so it becomes very segmented so that somebody can say, I work Class A office in the West Metro, I handle just landlord leasing. So please understand that to be a generalist in commercial real estate is challenging, it's tricky. We are generalists. However, we do focus very much on office, retail, industrial, land. We handle business assets, and of course, we're very much involved in investment real estate, including net leased properties as well. So guys, just real quickly, I want to touch on commercial commissions and fees. And unlike residential real estate, where it's really cut and dry on the MLS, you'll typically see exactly what is the payout that a buyer agent is going to get on a particular transaction. It doesn't work that way in commercial. Actually, we negotiate fees for every transaction we work on, and this includes leasing and sales. And so nobody should ever assume that there's a built-in fee. In fact, one of the first questions many times when another commercial broker will call us about one of our listings is, are you cooperating? What is the cooperating fee? And we typically negotiate our fees in commercial. Many times residential agents can learn this a hard way by going to a closing and realizing that, what do you mean I'm not getting paid? Unless it's ironed out in a separate agreement prior to closing, sometimes there may be no commission and fee. So bear in mind, it is very different in commercial than it is in residential. So guys, I just kind of scratched the surface. That's the tip of the iceberg on this, kind of some of the difference between residential and commercial. Each of these is worthy of its own video to go into great detail, but what I want to do is just kind of express to you that if you're a residential agent thinking about doing commercial, be careful. Just a lot of word of caution. If you're a property owner looking to sell commercial or lease commercial, make sure that you're fully vetting the people that you're hiring so that they've got a very good track record on knowing what they're doing. So I hope this was helpful for you. Again, look us up, reach out to us if you have any questions. Our website is resultscommercial.com. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, or any of the social media platforms, and I thank you for your time today.